Hi, Eric. Another
Welcome to New
big
York, Nigel.
week in Republican politics. It's very. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little bit further south on the island than you. Milwaukee. I know your father said he's not going to go because he's way ahead, and, Ronald Reagan back in 83-4 didn't go either. But would it not be fair to say that what happens in Milwaukee is still important, because who the vice presidential running mate is, it does matter, doesn't it?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, Nigel, I think my father's going to have a much larger audience at that time than even, the Fox debate. That's pretty clear. Listen, my father's winning the Republican nomination in the United States by 50, 55, 60% in some polls. The next person isn't even close. That, by a lot of people's accounts, would be Ron DeSantis, who is now in single digits. The point of having debates is so you can actually learn candidates and get to understand their positions. I think my father's been probably the most outspoken person in the entire world over the last not just 4 years, but over the last 7 years. People know exactly who Donald Trump is. They know exactly what he stands for. They know exactly what he's done and will do because they've seen him do it before. I'm not exactly sure if Donald Trump needs to introduce himself to anybody, but when you're leading by 50 points and you know that there's candidates out there that have half a percentage point in the polls, why do you go in there? What's the point? What's the point of wasting your time, especially knowing that some of those people are just out for blood? Some of those people, in my opinion, are being paid to do nothing than to harass and, try and, really beline Donald Trump. And there's no sense of him stepping on that stage. If I was him, I wouldn't step on that stage. And I think he's going to get more views and much more airtime not being on that stage.
Yeah, no, I mean, Eric, I think you're right. I think that a combination of Tucker Carlson, having a big sit-down with your father is likely, of course, to get a much bigger audience than a group of people, some of whom are well-known, some of whom are not well-known at all. I agree with that. But I do repeat the point that who your father picks as a vice presidential running mate, that still matters in America, doesn't it?
It does matter. It does matter. And I think there's quite a few respected people on that stage. And I think there's a lot of people who are respected that aren't on that stage. And so, my father's going to have a tough, choice in picking the right person not just for him and personality, but the right person for the times. And given, all the problems that our country faces and many of the things that he would want to do and he'd want to do immediately upon getting into office. No question about it.
Yeah. And Eric, we've been looking from our side of the pond and around the rest of the English-speaking world in particular, as indictment after indictment builds up, of course, Georgia being the latest and perhaps the most complicated and difficult of all of them. I mean, how on earth, if there are a series of trials going on in 2024, how on earth is Donald Trump going to fight this campaign if they've constantly got him in court?
Well, he's going to do what he does best, and he's going to multitask and, do what he had to do every single day during the 4 years of his presidency, Nigel. I mean, you're no stranger to this. They've done the same thing to you on the other side of the pond, and believe me, you only go after your enemies. You know that better than anyone. If my father wasn't leading by 50 and 60 points the Republican Party, they wouldn't be going after him. These trials, the charges, they're nonsense. It's hard to believe. The entire country is laughing at the stuff. Everybody knows exactly what it is. It's the weaponization of government. And, we, on behalf of America and obviously, the entire UK, we're supposed to lead the world in terms of Western thought and not trying to imprison political opponents. And we're falling into the very trap of Venezuela and Iran and so many of these countries who are notorious for doing exactly this. And Joe Biden has weaponized the DOJ over here. He is going after his political opponent. They want to deprive him of time. They want to deprive him of resources. They want to deprive him of money. And if nothing else, slander him. Even if they don't get their ultimate victory, which I don't think they will, because my father has done absolutely nothing wrong, and he's hell-bent on fighting these people all the way to the very end. But they're trying to do exactly that because they don't want to see Donald Trump as president, and they will do anything they can. They did it with the Russia hoax. You saw that. They did it with our Supreme Court justices over here. They did it with perfectly fine, phone calls, which everybody knows about. I mean, they tried to impeach my father from day one, and this is their latest attempt to use a civil system and a criminal system against a person who's a clear front runner in the Republican circles in, the presidency of, the United States in 2024.
Eric, I understand much of it, not to the same degree, but the Russia hoax and much else, being debanked, many of these things, I fully understand it. Just one last quick thought. I've been watching a guy called Vivek Ramaswamy. He looks very interesting.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You know, Vivek absolutely loves my father. He goes, I'd be calling him every single day. I'd be getting counseling from Vivek. I'd be getting counseling from Donald Trump. I think the guy's the greatest president, in American history. I mean, the guy's been incredibly complimentary to my father. My father likewise has been complimentary to him.